So the topic that we are going to discuss today is Open RAN. So it is not the first time that we are going to talk about this technology. Vladan has already presented this in one of our quarter technology updates, but this time around we are going to have a different point of view regarding this technology. So what is the benefit, what are the challenges, and all points that we didn't discuss last time. So of course the agenda is very small, so we will just start with a basic review of ORAN because we already discussed this, and then I will present some use cases which I really think it is important for ORAN, and then I will present some conclusion as we see for this technology. So let's go ahead. So let's start, of course, with the review. So let me remind you what is the basic idea of ORAN. So we know that traditionally, the RAN or the component of any RAN system or any wireless communication system when it comes to the environment of propagation between the base station and the UE is mainly comprising two parts, which are really the baseband unit and the radio remote unit. So this is actually the traditional way where you have your base BBU located on the same area where you have your antennas and when you have your radio remote unit, and you have a link between your baseband unit, and of course you should have also a link which is we call the backhaul from your BBU to the core networks to connect all your traffic to the core network. This is the traditional way, and the evolution, of course, of this is that it is one of the disadvantage of this is it is not flexible in terms of traffic and in terms of parameter optimization of your network. So there are a lot of evolution in there, so which are mainly going from, as you can see here from the this slide, so from DRAN, which is the distributed or traditional way, to what we call it the cloud RAN or CRAN actually, so centralized RAN. It is actually the same term here. It can be used interchangeably between these two, but the main idea of this is to really move this BBU from the same location of your radio remote unit and put it far away so that you can share it between different RRU or different base station. So this is the first we have seen as an evolution, and then we have seen what we call the virtual RAN. So virtual RAN, actually, the basic idea is simply to separate between the hardware component and the software component. So of course, when you have these two separated, you will have more flexibility in terms of implementation of the function of the radio protocols between the base station and the UE. So it will really help with all this flexibility in terms of managing and in terms of automation of your network. And then finally we got from vRAN to what we call now Open RAN. And Open RAN is actually it includes all this evolution of the RAN, which means the centralized, the cloud, the virtual. But Open RAN is really meant to have really kind of standardization way to do all these techniques, because so far each OEM would come with his own solution with this technology, but Open RAN is trying really to make some kind of standardization with this technology in order for the operators or the anyone who want to deploy this type of network. It will be more flexible because he will have the choice of acquiring different equipment from different vendors, because so far it was really titled to only one operator if you want really to deploy this type of technology. So this is a short review and evolution and the introduction to this technology. And here I wanted just to share the actual deployment map for ORAN. This is recently made available from ORAN Alliance, and we can see here that there are some of the deployment of this type of technology, and mainly if you look at the from the US and Canada, we have only 3 use cases and one 3 use cases in Canada and 1 in US, but in Europe we have almost 5 in Great Britain and 2 use cases in Germany and 1 in India. So in total, there are maybe 12 use deployment already in for this type of technology. But of course, this is something that just started, so to see, and we think that we will see more than this shown here. So then let's talk about a little bit about the benefits of ORAN architecture. Of course, there are a lot of benefits, but here I mentioned only 3, which I think are most important. Of course, the first one is reducing CapEx through a prosperous multi-vendor ecosystem with scale economics, because now you have more choices to acquire this type of technology from different vendor. You can acquire actually different equipment from different vendors. And then, of course, also the OPEX can be reduced using this technology by, of course, introducing more intelligence as you are making a difference between hardware and software. So you may change only some functions and make it more intelligent, or introduce new function in software. So, and the third one that I want to mention here is that this technology is capable of importing new capabilities with the great agility because of the software function implementation, and it will be just, it can be achieved just with the software upgrade. Then regarding the ORAN use cases, so here I mentioned also a few of them, but I think also there are more than that. But I wanted to focus on something that we already know, but it is more significant for ORAN, and the first one was RAN slicing. We have already discussed this type of techniques or technology, but with ORAN it will be more suitable, and it will be more easier to deploy because of all your different function implementation as a software. And it will also facilitate the what we call now for slicing, the service level agreement between the operator and the business owner or business customer. The second use case is really the dynamic handover management for V2X application with, of course, a lot of AI, ML based application. The handover management, it's not really a new technique or new challenges. It is already known for wireless industry, but for V2X, it's a little bit, I would say, critical because you may have an application to apply, let's say, a self-driving car or something. So this handover management would be more critical for this type of application, and ORAN will really facilitate and manage this type of handover. The third use case, I think it's well known already also, but with ORAN it will be more easier to implement, which is the RAN sharing via, of course, the virtual RAN, which is a separation between, as I mentioned, between software and hardware, and sharing normally between mobile network operator, the owner of the network, and sometimes with the mobile virtual network operator, which want to deploy his own network, but from the mobile network operator. So far, it was really kind of service offered by the operator to the mobile virtual network operator, but with O-RAN, it will be more easier to configure and to share the network resource independently, which means the mobile virtual network operator can really configure his own network independently without going through the mobile network operator owner. And the next one was, of course, the traffic steering, which is a very important aspect also for O-RAN, because one of the challenging now with radio access network is really the load balancing between the cells. So sometimes you have one cell which is more used than the other cells. So using this type of technology will allow you really to steer the traffic and make some balances for optimal traffic distribution between all cells. And the last one I wanted to mention is the what is known the massive MIMO optimization use case to proactively and continuously improve your cell-centric network quality of service. So this is very important to apply, and it will be more easier using this O-RAN technology. One other use cases, it is, I want here to share it separate because this is, we think it's very important, which is O-RAN for private networks. So we have seen really a very interesting operator survey that has been done last year, 2023. And the question for this survey was, does your organization expect to use O-RAN technology in private 5G enterprise network within only the next 2 years? So, and the results are very interesting. So if we look at the first two answers from this operator. So the first one, they are really thinking that this O-RAN will play an important role. Almost 40% of the survey operators. And then the next one, they think really it will be a critical part of the private network 5G offer. So almost between these two, almost 71%, and the other part are just thinking that it will have just limited role, or maybe probably no role at all, or lastly, no plans at all for private network deployment using 5G. So this is what we think really the O-RAN for private network will be really important. And as a conclusion, just we think that O-RAN is the next standard for RAN technology, and private network will be a key driver of O-RAN, as we have seen from this operator survey.